Hey Joshua, thanks a million for sending this shot. It's very cool and fun to look at. So it's kind of played through it a couple of times first, just to kind of get a sense of where we are with it. Lots of cool stuff going on here. It's a very ambitious shot. You're really trying to show lots of weight and that kind of thing. It's good body mechanics exercise. Nice acting in there as well. One kind of broad comment just about the presentation of it. I would suggest it's not, it's not about the animation itself necessarily, but maybe changing the color of the background in Maya. If you hold Alt B, you can cycle through. Every time you press that, you'll cycle through different colors. Um, just make him maybe stand off the background a little bit more. Like you can make the background kind of blue, or you can put a gradient on it in the color settings, or you could just throw in a sphere into the scene to do that. It's just like when he's zoomed out, he's not the silhouette isn't as maybe as clear from the background as it could be. So it's just that's just more about a presentation thing, but it might also help you as you're animating, just to kind of see the silhouette better because he's quite close. His color because he's untextured, he's quite close to the color of the background. Um, but yeah, that's more of a presentation kind of note. But the first thing that kind of reminded me of actually, and I had a quick look. I went to look was this cool shot from the Demon Souls remake trailer that came out a few years back. I really like the weight of this um, shield that he's carrying. Obviously, it's a different kind of shot to yours. We're not, he's not obviously injured. He's super powerful. In fact, he's barely reacting to the fact that he's dropping it. But you can see some stuff that's nice actually in there. You can see the little shift in his this angle of his chest here. This part. Um, but part of the reason I want to look at this, there's a lot of things here that sell the weight, like this big cloud of effects and stuff, and the camera shake, like the impact on the camera as it lands. So that could be definitely be something that might be worth thinking about and putting into your shot. As you get closer to the final, to animate the camera a little bit as well to kind of show that impact. But one of the things that I think really helps the weight of this feel heavy is the spacing of it. Like if I kind of track this bottom edge of it over the few frames as it goes on, it's kind of hanging there. It's not going to be super accurate. I'm kind of copying the lip of it there. Which maybe I should start with the other lip. But the hopefully there's a very steady, like very slow at the beginning, and then once you kind of, I'm tracking the wrong edge now, so it is kind of going off a bit. But it's probably even. If I turn on the ghosting on that now, you can sort of see. My drawings are quite rough and scribbly, but you can sort of see the spacing. It's kind of starting off very slow and then kind of easing out very gradually. And then the spacing gets kind of big, big, big like that. That's kind of the bouncing ball version of it. Very, very tight up here, really very moving almost, and then really hard into the ground then. And then the camera shake and all the other elements then kind of help add to it. And I think the spacing could even maybe be a little bit better on this. It's not perfect, but I think it is. It's a good example of a nice heavy drop. I feel like that may be missing a little bit in some of your moves with this. Like this one here, I do feel it. If I look at, say, if I track it here, one of the other things as well that's kind of killing the weight a little bit is that kind of quick changes of direction. Like it comes up and then it comes down. I would expect it to kind of if he's really, he's a strong guy, but it's still a big, heavy thing. So I imagine he would take a lot of force to get it up there, and it would probably, still be swinging through this direction, that force that came in from there. And then I think the spacing here just feels a little soft. I would actually kind of delay it a bit more. So maybe here I still have it up here a bit more, and then here, still like gradually accelerating, but not but having a big gap at the end. So like this frame, I'd almost take out and just have it landed already. And really, it just feels a little soft there landing. The other thing is, and this is going to be maybe a little bit of a tricky note, is because it's such a big part of his silhouette, like it's just almost as big as he is. He feels quite off balance in a lot of these poses as he comes forward. Like, which is fine once it hits the ground, but when it's in the air, I kind of feel like it should either be closer to him or he should be more over, like this arm should be more further out and his hip should be further over the planted leg, just to kind of really, so everything be moved in a little bit. It's gonna be a terrible drawing, but so his head is back here, and then the shield is here. The tricky thing is that you don't want to obscure, obviously, him. You don't want to hide him behind the shield. So it's going to be trying to find a balance with that. Maybe you could play with the cameras a little bit. But I feel like this move here, again, it just feels like he lifts it up straight from the ground. Whereas if you think about it as being heavy, this little edge that's contacting the ground should actually swing in. It should swing this way. It shouldn't just come out like that, because it looks like he's got, it's not believable really that he's able to swing it out this way so easily. It feels like it should actually kind of do the opposite, kind of come in closer to his body and then come down. And then again here, like you can kind of see it changes direction, like it kind of comes in. I like how it's going in here gradually, like it's the bottom of it. I'm looking at that as the kind of, and then it kind of just stops and kind of just swings forward and out again. I feel like it should be still going this way and kind of slowing back out then of that. Again, the spacing. It would be nice. What would be cool as well was one of our teachers at anime used to talk about this thing called the ILM jiggle. Anytime you have something kind of landing really heavily, like here, for example, you could have his shoulder do like an up and then a down and then an up over a few frames. I think you see a bit of that in the Demon Souls thing, actually. It's pretty subtle. You kind of see it in the armor, actually. Here, it's a little bit hard because it's hidden with the motion blur and the camera, but I do think it's there. At least, you can sort of see the shifting around of these plates in his armor. So I think it's there. It is kind of there. You actually see a little bit of it in his knee as well. It's kind of moving back and forward. You kind of see it going out and then in again. So yeah, you'll see it if you watch a lot of creature movies. You'll see it a lot, like in big heavy monsters. Every time they land their foot on the ground, their knee will do like an in and out, and that kind of stuff can help sell impact and weight. Yeah, that's a lot on the weight and stuff. But I think that's kind of the point of your shot, so it's something really good to focus on. The thing we haven't done yet, I have a few other notes as well, but the thing we haven't done yet is look at your references. I think is another good thing to think about. I'll look at this already, and my first impression was that your acting is really nice. I really buy that you're injured and that you're tired, and this is last ditch effort. You got some really nice mechanics, even your facial expressions. I really feel it, like this is somebody on their last, gasp, trying to push through. One of the issues, though, I think, and this is maybe part of why we're seeing the weight issues with the sword, is that the prop you have, the table, the chair, it's not really contacting the ground. You're not using it in the same way the character is. And it's clearly not as heavy as, the sword would be. And this is also a tricky thing because we don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to be, lifting stuff that's going to actually be physically difficult and we might injure ourselves. But at the same time, maybe if you could find something else, like a big chunk of wood or a big chunk of foam or whatever, cardboard or something, and just make something that's at least similar sort of sizes, you might get closer to it, or if you got something heavy and just acted out some of these steps individually just to kind of get a feel for. Because there is, like, the way you're holding it, it does work nicely, but there's never contacts in the ground, so you're kind of losing that reality apart from the end here. What's actually cool is your camera actually does a shake as you land here. I'm just noticing it there if you look at like this thing and the background. Um, so you've actually got some nice reference for a camera shake there as well. Which is, um, there's some other things that are really nice in this. Like so far, I've been kind of going over broad notes like the weight and maybe the the posing to sell the weight a little bit better, like having this a little bit closer to him rather than further over and having his hips pushed over more over the leg that's on the ground. It's just like here particularly that pose feels a little bit too off balance. It doesn't feel, I don't believe enough that his foot could lift off here without him transferring more of his weight over this side. Like if you look at your reference, you are you're not transferring very much because you are um it doesn't look like your hips moving very far, but your head is actually, your torso is kind of doing this kind of thing. I'm going to exaggerate it for clarity, but you're kind of doing that, and your arm is out here as well. So, and plus the chair isn't as heavy as his sword or his shield, obviously. So you are, even though your hips aren't actually doing as much as I suggested, I think the weight is transferring over that leg. Plus, you're getting that foot off and on very quickly. It's like I say, it's a limp rather than a normal kind of step. But if you look at your head, how much translation your head is doing in screen space, like it's over to here at this point, and then it's over to here, like it goes right the way through. That's really quite a broad shift. And our heads are a heavy part of our body, probably the heaviest part of our body. Um, so shifting the weight with them makes a lot of sense. And it's also nice and dramatic, actually. It's cool looking. I think that'd be maybe something to try and get a little bit more of that in. You could maybe play with the angle of his head a bit as well, a little bit more, like just to kind of break up the angle. So maybe his eyes are over here, just to really drag his head this way, and he's like have his whole torso dragged, but having the head dragged as well. It's one of the things with overlap as well that it's quite easy to forget an axis. Like in this save piece, his head is like this, in this frame. Have as he comes over to have it drag back a little bit, that as well. So we feel it kind of tilting over as his body comes forward. As his body starts shifting over this way, his head is still dragging back that way. That'll give you that sort of C shape. And then as he comes over here, then you'll push it further. So now his head will be over like this way. I'm exaggerating these drawings for clarity, but that's the basic idea. But to really kind of sell that, I think some of the overlap here you could push a bit more as well, like maybe. But if I look at his, it looks like he's got sort of like a headband or something here. I'd probably drag that more as he comes down, so that we're almost looking under his chin just for a couple of frames, and then he shoots down. And like it looks like he recovers a little bit too quickly here. Again, if we look at your reference, come down. Yeah, we are kind of seeing the bottom of your chin a little bit here. So if you can kind of imagine how high up your head is tilted. That, and then the swing forward here. I would actually even go further than you have in your reference, and the character like let his eyes disappear for a frame or two. Just really get that eye line right down and then back up again. But there's some really nice overlap and settling in this. So I don't want to make this video too long. It's mainly kind of broad strokes right now. But a couple of things I would talk about as well, just in relation to when you get to the more policy stages. A couple of things that are really nice in your reference, actually, I kind of really like, is the swinging of this arm, your free arm. There's some really nice. If you look at the paths of it, like from here, say, it does a really nice arcing motion in. Kind of doing this sort of thing, and then it comes out again, and then in again. So it's doing these lovely, if you're looking at it from the top, if you had a camera up here, say, you probably see these lovely kind of spirally kind of shapes that it's doing. Um, you'll see it there, like whoosh. I have to make noises like that, I apologize. But yeah, it's going whoosh. And you see it again there. So there's this lovely kind of, and that makes it, that adds a lot of weight and kind of polish to it. You'll see it again. Again, if I'm looking at that from the top, I'd imagine there's like kind of a spiral or a kind of circular kind of path to it. And I really like the kind of drag then as you come down. You can almost exaggerate this in your animation, like have the elbow coming down first and have the hand up, for it's the kind of cartoonified version of it. It's you're not going for a cartoon look to this shot, but having a little bit of exaggeration like that can sort of help. Whereas if I look at your animation on some of those sections, you can see the arm, it's kind of just dragging in one axis. I do see it going in there, like it's going in that way, but it kind of stops and then comes out and then kind of stops. It's not doing those nice spirals. So that's the kind of place where I'd put a motion trail on the arm and really try and make it feel nice and heavy and drag it in a lot of different axes. It kind of hits a wall there as well. You can see that just there. It's like the elbow on the arm just kind of locks for a second and then it starts moving again. So little stuff like that, adding in a little bit more. Another pass on that. So yeah, here's that part. Like this feels a little bit awkward, I think. The hand coming down. So control, I would actually, as I was saying, look at the reference, have the elbow come down and still have the arm up and the fingers out. You could push the drawing. Sorry, I'm not a great drawer. That's why I work in CG. But the hand could still be up and the elbow could be leading, and then we like again that idea of like slow, 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 quick, big spacing jumps, as it kind of ramps out of the move. So I think then you've got some fiddly stuff, tedious stuff of like locking the hand to the knee. That can be tricky. I remember working on some stuff like that. I did some cinematic stuff on Horizon Forbidden West, and there's a shot where Aloy was doing that kind of thing where she had her hand on her knee the whole time. I ended up like kind of unhiding the joints in the rig and looking at where her knee joint was in the actual rig and just putting a locator in there and then constraining the IK hand control to the locator and then just animating it, kind of locked in. Basically, I put her hand in knee space, using the joints in the rig, and then baked it back to the normal keyframes and delete the locator. Is a little bit tedious, but that kind of stuff, it's a last polish pass stuff, but it really does add to the solidity of the believability that this is a person who's in the world. I think you've done a nice job with the knee over this side. It feels nice and clean, like a little bit of penetration there, but that's okay, I think. But I think the hand kind of sliding around here kills the weight a little bit. The other thing that once you've got that locked down, you could do would be to have, as he comes forward here, you can have the shoulder lift up. So to kind of show the force kind of going into the hand, into the leg, have that, the shoulder move up. Again, kind of like the scapulas on a cat, as they take the weight on the leg, the shoulder will push up. So I think that's plenty probably to give you to for the next pass. There's loads of stuff to work on here, but it's a really cool shot. Like I think I say, I really admire your reference. I think you really nailed the feel of it in your facial expression and like this kind of stuff. I feel the anguish and the determination, the grit, the drama. That's really nice. Yeah, no, that's really great. And here you can see you've got that kind of that knee jiggle. Once your hand is contacted here, your knee will naturally move around a bit because of it, but the hand is locked to it. It's also a difficult thing in CG, making things feel connected. Making, if you've got two characters interacting with each other, or a character interacting with the part of themselves, like their knee like this, or with the prop in the world, there's no actual physical thing for them to touch. So you have to really kind of be very diligent about nailing that stuff down, just to really tighten it. But that's more of a polish thing. I would focus, like, just to sum up, I would focus first on looking at the shield, maybe trying to get a bit more, trying to maybe think about the silhouette of it, maybe getting a little bit closer to him or having him further over as you shift his weight. You might end up adjusting the camera angle a little bit if it helps to not obscure him so much. And when you do that, and then looking at the spacing of it, making it feel nice and heavy. And then I would move on to things more polishy stuff, like the thing I was talking about, the hand arcs and the head angles and things like that. And then the final kind of nice details would be the camera shake as each time the thing lands. You have the biggest one here, obviously, when it's right near the camera. But I'd probably add a few of them on each landing just to give it a bit. I'd often use animation layers for that as well, because you've got a nice smooth pan out. You don't want to ruin that with having lots of keyframes on your camera. So I'd often add an animation layer and do the noise on that channel, on that layer, and then I can dial it up and down then if I decide it's not enough or too much. And then the last thing I would do then would be things like the the hand contact, and maybe, I don't know how the rig is, if you can animate some bits of his hair or some of the other overlappy stuff. I can see a little bit there actually with this prop thing. Maybe push some of that stuff a little bit more, add a bit of extra jiggle to all that stuff. It would help just add that extra layer of believability to it. In a game, a lot of times that stuff will be simulated in the game, but it's really good practice actually to do that stuff by hand. It's because it really trains your eye. I would generally do it as like a straight ahead pass once everything else is working. I don't generally do too much as I'm blocking or splitting. So it's kind of like a last pass, adding these extra details, making things, react to the main action. So the main action has to be kind of solved before you would do that stuff. So yeah, we're about 22 minutes, so I'm gonna pause it there so I don't give you too much to look at. But I really hope that's helpful. And yeah, awesome shot, and best of luck with it. Look forward to seeing how it develops. Cheers.